Good morning, everyone. We are back to the study of the Medium's book. Elmo is traveling, so we are going to take over today. We started last month on the theoretical essay on apparitions. We've been studying this chapter, which is apparitions. Again, at the time of Kardec, he used the word apparitions to define spirits that make themselves visible to both mediums and maybe to incarnates in a materialization form. So he's not here making a distinction. He's mostly talking about spirits being seen by incarnate individuals. So he's talking about how the spirits show themselves, the different forms of that they present themselves. And he talks a little bit about we seeing spirits in dreams, which is when we go to the spiritual world during our sleep and we interact with spirits, how they present themselves, different forms. And also for those incarnate ones that can see spirits either on in a trance during mediumship as a medium, or in a normal state, like some mediums that can see spirits at all times. We on Thursdays we just finished studying, or actually we're still studying sonambulism, double remote viewing, and ecstatic trance. So we talked a little bit about this seeing spirits. So this is a little bit of both. So when we are talking about apparitions here, we really have to think about, in general terms, incarnates being able to see spirits during sleep, during trance, not trance, regular lives, and the differences and how the spirits present themselves to us and how we can see them. Okay, and then we can go in more details as we discuss here. So we read 101 and 102 last month, and we are going to start, again, the item is called Theoretical Essay on Apparitions. Again, at the time of Kardec, he didn't use the word materialization, which we use today, when a spirit materializes and everyone can see it. Like Jesus, when he came back and appeared in front of the disciples, or in front of Mary Magdalene, that was a materialization. Kardec would call here an apparition. When Jesus appeared to Paul of Tarsus in a dream that he had together with Stephen and with Abigail, that's also an apparition as defined by Kardec here. Just so we are talking here in a wide, broad view of apparitions as an interaction with spirits presenting themselves to incarnates, either in dreams, in waking state, in trance, all states. Okay, just to make it very clear what we are talking about here. Okay, so Soraya, can you read for us? Can you see the first line, the top line, or no?
No, it says about them. That's
no. Okay, so let me start. 103. We have stated that apparitions have something vaporous about them.
In some cases, we can compare them to the image reflected in an unsilvered mirror, where despite its clearness, we may also see objects that are behind the mirror. This is how seeing mediums usually perceive them. They see them come and go, enter a room or leave, circulate amongst a crowd of living persons, at least when it comes to ordinary spirits who take an interest in everything, listen to everything that is said, and take an active part in all that goes on around them. Good spirits are often seen to approach individuals in order to whisper ideas to them, to influence and comfort them, while evil spirits do so in order to mock them and to show disappointment or satisfaction at the results. In other words, spirits are the counterpart of the corporeal world. Thus is that secret world surrounding us, in the midst of which we live without even suspecting it, just as we live among the mirrored beings of the microscopic world. The microscopic has revealed the infinitely tiny world which we never suspected to exist. Spiritism, with the help of seeing mediums, have revealed the spirit world to us, which is also one of the active forces of nature. With the aid of such seeing mediums, we have been able to study the invisible world and to be initiated into its customs in the same way that a culture of blind individuals would be able to study the invisible world with the help of sighted persons.
Okay, so here Kardec talks a little bit about mediums. So let me use the mediums we have here, Ana, Fabio, Rogério. And he's talking about seeing mediums. And I know Ana, she sees spirits at times. So I want to show here the difference. Divaldo, and as I mentioned on Thursday, he sees spirits at all times. So that's why he said he never got a driver's license, because he could not differentiate between incarnate individuals and discarnate spirits, and he wouldn't feel safe driving. It's different from other mediums. Ana, you're there now?
Yes, I'm here, João.
So when you see, can you try to describe how you see them during a trance when you are in a mediumship meeting?
In a mediumship meeting is a little bit different from when I've seen it by surprise. I would call it by surprise because I wasn't expecting, and very early in my studies, it was a bit scary. So in the mediumship meetings, it is much more as a vault, as a dark vault, or a very bright light. And then sometimes I'm able to see parts of a hand or shades of or sides of a face, or sometimes a very distant face, or something approaching, like a person walking towards me or moving forward, or something very far in a corner that it's just a silhouette. So it's not as clear to me. I'm definitely not Divaldo. But and when I see it by surprise, or I would say what I'm not expecting, I've seen it much clearer. I've seen a person or a short person standing right next to me. I've seen somebody on top of me, but I've never seen a complete body. It's always the extremities missing. The person once I saw very, very clear next to me, and that was the most scared one. But it's very rare that I see that I would confuse with somebody alive. I would definitely not. And that's possibly why I got so surprised and shocked and a bit scared at first. Now I don't get more scared. And even when I've seen it, I've seen now 3 sitting on a sofa, very distant, and even those I could see that they were not in complete pictures or complete bodies, and those didn't scare me anymore. Said a prayer, sat down to meditate, and they went away, or at least away from my vision. So that is a bit of what I see.
Thanks, Ana. The other mediums, anyone wants to share what they experience? Fabio, Laura, Rogério.
Hi, I'll share.
Okay, Laura.
Sometimes it's funny because before our meetings start, we begin to work. We have that saying sometimes when we come in, we see each other. Yeah, I've been working since Thursday. I started working on Saturday, working before I got here. But sometimes you can see things before the meeting begins. And I've had instances where when I wake up in the morning and before I'm completely, I guess you would call conscious, I have seen spirits walk in to what I call my space, my psychosphere. And then I know that I have a spirit that's going to the mediums meeting, and I begin to feel, I guess how they're feeling. You can call it sick, you can call it fog, whatever they're feeling, you begin to feel. Sometimes it's a physical pain, sometimes it is a depression, a sadness. You can feel these different things. Inside the mediums meeting, I have had experiences when, after the communication, I can actually see the spirit leaving and going into, the house of assistance for help. And they'll actually look back at me, and you can see it's just like a picture, a full face, a movie. As they're going away, they turn and they look back at you. Sometimes they'll smile, sometimes they'll just look back, but you get to have that glimpse of that person. And there's been other instances in the mediums meeting where you don't see the person, but you have that presence. You know the presence. You can feel their outline. You can feel their energy. You can feel sometimes their pain, their emotions you can feel, but not particularly as a vision where you're seeing the actual person itself. Um, and and that happens as well. So I guess there's different phases of, these visions and what you're seeing and feeling. But you can see the outline of the energy, but there's that mediumistic feeling of you knowing what that spirit is feeling and what they're going through. I hope that helps.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks. Yeah, again, I want to give you an idea here of what the mediums experience, because Kardec mentioned the mediums here. But we are talking here when we are discussing apparitions, and I think it's important, right? Because Anna see shadows, Laura can see sometimes and even feel, which is, we know that happens to mediums in general, but what I want here to bring is the idea that the spirits present themselves, and it depends. They can, let's say, Anna, she doesn't see the fully formed spirits. It's not that the spirits are not fully formed. It's just what she can see is what she can see according to her abilities, right? Why Divaldo sees, Divaldo cannot distinguish between incarnates and discarnates, because he saw the spirits in their fully form, right? Complete form. So when Anna is not able to see the full form of the spirit, it's not that the spirit is not in full form, it's just she cannot fully see the spirits for different reasons, which are not relevant here to the discussion. But I just want to make that distinction here, right? So maybe, if the same spirit Anna and Divaldo were seeing, Divaldo would see the perfect form and Anna would see partially. Okay, Laura, yes, go ahead.
Hi. Yeah, before coming to the Spirit Center, I had a lot of, I get apparitions, you could say, different in nature. I had seen them when I was young. There was a woman in our home, and she was dressed in very old clothing, and she always looked the same. And every time I would go into the backyard, she would be in the corner section of the property behind the pool. I would see her frequently when I was a child. And when I was a child, I had a lot of physical effects of, lights going on and off in the room, doors opening and closing on their own repeatedly. The phone ringing, the phone wouldn't be plugged in. It was an old phone. Also, there's been apparitions when my mediumship really started to open before I got to the Spirit Center, of seeing spirits in my home and knowing that they weren't, that person wasn't here, they're not real, but they were full form. There were a few that were completely black and shadowed. They were just the figure of a person, and they would move and I would walk and I would follow them from room to room, and then they would disappear. I also had one instance which was really strange, and right after 9/11 happened, and there were people walking through my backyard. And it was strange. It was men, and they were dressed like construction workers with t-shirts and blue jeans and work boots on, and or I guess you would say like volunteer firefighters maybe going to help. And I saw many people walk through my backyard, and I realized that they were walking towards New York City. And I was just like, that's really strange. But I know from my past that I've had visions of people, and they look like real people. They're not misted, they're not see-through, they're not black. They look like real people. But I go and I try to follow. I went outside to see like, why is these people walking through my backyard? And the back of my yard is woods, and they didn't walk into my neighbor's yard. They were gone. And since I had that experience with the woman in my home when I was younger, I guessed that, okay, that has to be, spirits walking. But in my family, you hear about those abilities of people seeing spirits here and there, but it's nothing that they ever pay really attention to, or no one has ever developed their mediumship. But that has also happened as well. So sometimes you can't tell. I hope that helps, this discussion.
Absolutely, yes, thanks. And one thing that you brought that is very interesting here, right? When you are a child, up to most cases up to 7, 8 years that you live half here, half there, we hear children talking about invisible friends, right? How do they see their invisible friends? They see as an incarnate individual, right? They see a spirit fully formed. It's not partially. The way you saw the workers there in your backyard, these are really spirits that were probably coming to help and assist on the work being done, on the rescue work being done at the Twin Towers and the region, right? That at the fact that you saw them in your backyard doesn't mean that they were exactly there, right? Because again, we cannot put the spiritual world as physical location like like we have here, right? It's not because they are in the backyard of your house that they are not directly working. You see them there, but maybe they are just working somewhere in the spiritual world, connected directly to the Twin Towers. I just want to make sure that we understand that we cannot take it literally when we see spirits in our backyard, that they are in our backyard of the spiritual world, right? It's just not exactly like that. And we talk about in the mediumship meeting, we talk about all the time, you are here in the house of assistance. Well, it's not that the house of assistance is on the top of or inside the spirit center, right? The house of assistance is some place in the spiritual world that is connected to our spirit center, but not exactly inside, outside, upside, or downside. That's also important reminder here to understand better. When we are seeing, experiencing, interacting with spirits, we are not exactly physically where we are in the physical world. We are when you enter into a trance state or when you are a medium, you can be interacting with the spirits somewhere else, not exactly where you think you see them. Okay? Yes, Anna.
Yes, Joe. Something that I'm also always a little puzzled is, one thing is when we are in the mediumships meeting, one thing is when you're not in communication, and what I see it's a lot of what I've described. They're not very clear. But once you are in communication, then it's a completely different thing, because what I see are very clear in my mental screen. The spaces where the spirit seems to be remembering, because I think it is a memory, and the people that are approaching. So the healers, or the people, especially though when they are being taken. these people, when it's hard to first see them, at least in my mental mind, which I'm associating to being the spirit's vision. But once they become clear, sometimes it's the mother or a cousin or somebody that comes to help, and somebody's just the nurse or somebody that takes them. These images are extremely clear. They approach as more of a light, and then they become very, very clear, and then they move. But I never really see the spirit leaving or my field, let's say, as Laura mentioned, that they turn back and smile to her. That I've never seen. I see almost as if my hand is going with a person when they leave, but I don't exactly see. It's as if I'm already disconnecting or falling asleep myself. It's a bit strange. I don't see it very clear. But when they approach, I see it very, very clear.
Great. Thanks, Anna. Fabio.
Yeah, I would like to just add that my experience is pretty similar, give it or take, it's somewhat similar to both Anna and Laura in terms of childhoods, visions, etc., and all the other phenomena. But I would just like to point out what Anna just brought it up during the mediumship meetings. The patients, let's call it that, are very much darker and much not formed, and sometimes it's just voices. This is just me. But again, just what Anna described, the amount of family members and the amount of nurses and doctors that I see in the Spirit Center is enormous. And every single time that I remember, and not so much early on when I was as a medium there, but from the middle towards the end of the years that I worked there, it was a lot of what, as she described, the family members coming to help, nurses and doctors, and there's a lot of light. And one also reminder, I don't know if it's relevant to the discussion, is that the people with the problems usually like to linger because they're so much still associated with physical and graphic and description of what they're going through in terms of their issues. And the ones who are possessed with the help and with the love are totally filled with light, and they come in almost in a flash. They don't need to perform in a way that we expect, in order to save those people, help those people. I just like to add that bit. I don't know if that helps or not.
Yes, sure. Let me ask you something, Fabio. You receive also a lot of psychographies, right?
Yep.
From mentors. Do you see anything, or you just when you're receiving the psychographies?
For me, the mentors, because they don't need to. I'm using the word performance because it's just that what it is. They don't need to show themselves. They don't need to do any, hocus pocus. For me, to give the high elevated message or the good message, it feels like it feels like we both know what the intent is at that moment. So they just kind of, for me, they just come in, drop the message. It's just like this drop of light in the middle of Columbus Circle in my head, and that's the message. And I kind of remembered entirely, and I'm able to write it. And there have been moments when Jusara was present when we used to go into that room, that very high elevated spirits came in, and that became very emotional because me as Fabio was not expecting to be able to receive message from people of that caliber, let's say. But again, it's just like I wasn't thinking about those people or nothing related to them, but they come in a flash, this burst of light with the full package, for lack of a better word, and then I am able to open and translate it in and sometimes in tears, because as I said, it can become very emotional if it is from a high elevated spirit.
Thanks. Okay.
Sure.
I think we can continue here, right? 104, Soraya?
Yes. A spirit who desires and who is actually able to appear sometimes assumes an even more defined form, with all the appearances of a solid body, to the point of displaying a perfect illusion and leading us to believe that we are dealing with an actual corporeal
being. In some cases and under certain circumstances, an apparition's tangibility can become real.
meaning that we can touch and handle it and feel its resistance and heat as if it were a living body. Nevertheless, such characteristics do not prevent the apparition from vanishing as quickly as a flash of lightning. In these cases, its presence is not only verified with the eyes, but with the touch as well. If we could attribute the occurrence of a simple visual apparition to illusion or a kind of delusion, there can be no more doubt when we can hold and feel it, and when it can hold and hug us. However, tangible apparitions are the rarest. Nevertheless, those which have appeared of late under the influence of a few powerful mediums, and which have been completely authenticated by blameless witnesses, prove and explain the historical records involving persons who have reappeared after death with all the appearances of reality. Moreover, as we have already pointed out, in spite of how extraordinary such phenomena might seem, they lose all their extraordinary character when we know about the way in which they are produced and when we understand that. Far from representing a derogation from natural laws, they only display a new application of them.
Thank you.
Okay.
Here on the note, powerful mediums, it talks about Mr. Home. That's Douglas Dungas Home, a very famous medium at time of Kardec, which is said to be the previous incarnation of Divaldo. So here we're talking about materialization, right? Because when he talks about tangible spirits we can touch, we're talking about materialization. And again, the clearest, the more clear example we have is Jesus, right? When Thomas wanted to touch, he said to Thomas, "You can touch my wounds," and Thomas was able to touch and see for himself that it was Jesus. Now, of course, for a materialization, why he's talking about influence of powerful mediums? Because we need mediums of physical effects to for the ectoplasm to be enough to cause the materialization of the spirit. One of the most famous experiences done at the time of Kardec was with Williams Crook, the famous English physicist, with a medium, forgot the name, the spirit was Katie King, that there was this materialization, Florence Cook, and the spirit was Katie King. So he did a series of experiences with the spirit. He touched the spirit, he made all sorts of different experiences during a very long period of time. That is an example of materialization. Again, materialization happens when everybody can see the spirit, not only us, non-ostensive mediums, but the mediums or someone who's passing by, doesn't matter. Everybody can see, because the spirit, as they say here, the tangibility can become real. We can touch and handle it, feel its resistance and heat as if it were a living body. Now, it can vanish very quickly, of course, because the spirit can disappear if they want to. But it's important for us here to understand that in this item, we're talking about materialization. Chico used to be able to do some materializations up until the beginning mid-50s, and then Emmanuel told him that he was going to stop doing materializations. He was going to focus only on the books, because the books were the things that were going to stay. And again, we said, sorry, we said many times, if a spirit materialized in the middle of a study group, mediumship study group, half of the people will run away from the room, the other half will stay and be fascinated by it. And then you leave the room and you tell your neighbor that you saw a spirit. Your neighbor will laugh at you, probably, or will be very interested as an odd case. But with the psychographic books, the person can read the books. They can believe or not believe that comes from a spirit, but what is there in the book is useful and stays. Physical manifestations, of course, for Jesus was very important, because if you study the history of Christianity, right, the big change that happened to the apostles was because of the materialization of Jesus. When Jesus was crucified, they all ran away. The only one that was there together with the women on the crucifixion was John. When Jesus told him to take care of his mother, Mary, that he told John, "This is your mother now, take care of her." And he took care of her until the end of her life. The other apostles all ran away and were all scared and didn't know what to do. When Jesus appears to them through the materialization, it was when they truly, fully, 100% believed in everything Jesus had taught them. And that the survival of the soul, that life continues, that we don't change, that there is a spiritual life. And you have to remember, the apostles were very simple people, so they learn a lot. You can imagine living with a perfect spirit for 3 years, the influence that it happens and the changes, but they were simple people. They were not yet fully prepared to absorb all the teachings of Jesus, and the teachings of Jesus became part of them, of who they were and how they behaved themselves after when Jesus materialized in front of them. Now, different from Paul of Tarsus, in the case of Paul of Tarsus, was not a materialization, was an apparition. Jesus appeared in front of him, and that was enough for him to change his whole view of Jesus and of the teachings of Jesus, and he began his journey as the true disseminator of Christianity. And one interesting thing, that all the apostles went to preach from Israel to the east. Paul was the only one that preached from Israel to the west. Eventually, Peter went to Rome and was crucified there also. But the preaching, the spread of Christianity done by Paul, which is why we have Christianity as we have today, was all done mostly, not all, but mostly. He did travel through Asia also, but mostly through Europe. So again, two different, very well-known cases of first materialization and apparition. The materialization for Mary Magdalene and the apostles, the apparition for Paul of Tarsus on the way to Damascus. That is beautifully described in the book Paul and Stephen. It's one of the most emotionally parts of the book, Paul and Stephen, when Jesus appears to Paul. So I think the differences here are more or less clear, right? For a materialization, we need a medium of physical effects. For an apparition, we don't. We just, the spirit can make itself present to someone, either in a dream state or in a kind of a semi-trance state, which is what happened to Paul of Tarsus. He was the heat was really bothering him. He was kind of in a altered state of mind when Jesus appeared to him. Okay, questions here, comments?
I have a question.
Sure, Laura.
Pertaining to the part where it says, under certain circumstances, an apparition's tangibility can be real, meaning that we can touch and handle it and feel its resistance and heat as if it were a living body. So my question is this. When things were really difficult for me before I came to the center, I was being pushed, punched, having bruises and scratches. Though the spirit was not visible, it was invisible, but the physical effect of the push was a hand, and it was a hard push. The punch was a fist, and it was a decent punch. And catches you by surprise. A scratch is, you feel the scratch, and then you have the redness and the welting of the scratch. The same with the bruises. You'll feel literally someone gripping you, and then you have bruises, and they would look like fingertips, around your arm. I don't feel that at that time that it is, like a tangible, you don't see anything. It's just
not
the energy. So I don't understand the difference with that.
Okay, so I think when you were talking, I just remembered, for all of us that have seen the movie Ghost, you remember that when he was learning how to kick the can in the subway station, the spirit was teaching him how to kick the can. So, and there is a scene that shows when he learns to kick the can, the incarnates can see the can, but cannot see the spirit. So the action, it's a physical effect, kicking the can, because it happens in the material world, but nobody else can see. So it's the same thing here, Laura. The spirit is really punching you, yes, but it's not a materialization or an apparition. It is only a physical phenomena that they are using. They can act on the physical world through your ectoplasm, because you are a medium of physical effects. They use your ectoplasm to produce these effects, but it doesn't necessarily need to be an apparition. It's just an effect that they are able to produce, like the one in the movie Ghost with the can. Does it make it clear? Or
yes, it does. Thank you.
Anyone else has any follow-up questions on that? Was it clear? So there are different aspects of mediumship or physical effects. Yes, Anna.
But Sean, in this case, for example, that she would feel like see fingertips in her arm. Is it still some sort of an energy that looks like a finger is squeezing her arm, or is this what is it that the spirit is using?
No, the spirit is using its own perispirit, right? The spirit is a fully formed perispiritual being, right? Mm-hmm. So the spirit is using his or her energy to cause these effects on Laura, but it doesn't need to. She necessarily doesn't. The spirit can. We are going to see this, I think, but the spirit can not present themselves, right? Because an apparition and a materialization, the spirit has some say in it. They can control it. Remember André Luiz in the book The Messengers, when they go through the lower zones, that they dim their light, they so not to become visible to the other spirits there. So the spirits can control their visibility to a certain point. So here you are having physical effects without Alora being able to see the spirit. Maybe because the spirit doesn't want to show himself or herself. Maybe because, you know, the vibration of Laura is different from the spirit and she couldn't see. But the physical effects were happening anyway, right? So these are different things here, right? When talking about apparitions and materialization, we're talking about the spirit that wants to be seen in one way or another form. We can have spirits that don't want to be seen, and we have them around us all day, at all times, right? Spirits influencing our lives, and sometimes, you know, the obsessors, the negative spirits, they are around us, and they clearly don't want to be seen. They want just to disturb us. So they can avoid being seen. Does it make it clear?
A little bit. It's just that in the case of the Coke can, I can see that it used energy, used ectoplasm to move the can. In the case of fingers in her arm, so it is using its own perispirit and her
Yes.
ectoplasm to push that energy through her arm so she can feel it. Okay, got it.
Yes, exactly that. Laura.
Okay.
Sorry, just one more question. So the bruises, they last like a normal bruise. They don't go away quickly. The scratches kind of went away a little quicker than normal, but the bruises, I mean, they would stay there their length of time as a normal bruise. And is that part of physical effects, or is that also?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, that is right. So it's not exactly the same. Let's say a spirit make a stone be thrown at you, right? And you're going to get hurt, you're going to have the effect. So there is no stone, but there is the action of the spirit directly on your skin, right? And it leaves a mark because it's physical. It's phenomenon of physical effects. So if it's physical, it has physical effects.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lauren.
So I
Right.
have a comment. I think
Yeah.
the interesting piece here is that the spirit is using the medium's own ectoplasm, right? So it's using basically your own energy to imprint an impression on your skin, but without your energy, that wouldn't be possible, right? Or whatever energy it is that's around that has mediumship or ectoplasm to donate. So in the end of the day, it's an impression that only stays because of energy that's within us, right? Within the medium or someone else has donated that energy, willingly or not, right? Which is an interesting. So it is a pressure against your body, right? So you leave an impression because it is an existing force against a material piece, right? So in the end, it's very much aligned with like the natural laws. Obviously, everything is, but I just think it's interesting that the energy that's generating or creating a possibility is within us, right? And that's sort of like the electricity to make it happen. No way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Anna.
Sorry to keep asking, but today
No,
there's
I
a
think
lot of.
it's good. I like the discussion today. I think it's very good.
It's quite useful. So what Rogerio was mentioning, you know, it's our own energy, it's our own ectoplasm, you know, our vital principle there, but it's not exactly a donation because it doesn't feel like we're willingly donating. But could it be that yes, we are in an allowing vibration for that to happen, or no? This is kind of stolen. We're not a willing donor. What is it?
Yeah, you're not a willing donor, but the mediums of physical effect, they produce ectoplasm, like it or not. It's natural. It's part of that. They can produce. We all have ectoplasm, but we don't have enough to produce physical effects, most of us. The very few of us, like Laura, that has enough ectoplasm, it goes, the spirits can use it independently of her wanting or not. Now, the second part is, how can she protect herself from the use against her? And that's what she has learned throughout these years since she started studying Spiritism, how to defend yourself, vibrations, prayers, and all other things. And maybe she can talk a little bit more about it. Go ahead, Laura.
All right, I have one more question. How do you stop unwillingly allowing them to use your ectoplasm for their own means? Because yes, I mean, I've learned a lot of the physical effects have stopped. A lot of the really bad ones have stopped, but they are still continuing. There's times, I get hurt a lot, and it's not because of anything that I'm doing, it's because of these bizarre accidents where things will flip up out of my hand. And then, the other day I just cut myself with scissors in the most crazy way. And I was like, oh shoot, I really have to pay attention a lot more. But I mean, these physical effects, they happen. And I'm really trying hard to make all of that stop. You're not allowed to use my ectoplasm. You can say it, you can mean it, but it doesn't mean that you can do it. So,
but let's say, how much percent is better than the old times, right? 80% better?
Yeah, at least, yeah, 80% better. But still, I'm getting hurt now. That area where I cut myself with the scissors, I have antibiotic on it, but I might have to go get an oral antibiotic because it's really red and getting infected. So how do you make that stop? So I can stop going to the doctor for help on these things.
Yeah, and again, you are a medium of physical effects, so that's not something that you can eliminate from you. It's part of who you are. Now, you learn through these years to control it, to defend yourself against it, to protect yourself against it. But reality is, you're not a perfect spirit, so you cannot achieve 100% of control. You can continue improving your ability to control, and you will continue, and you will continue to learn more as you learn to and when you pray to enter into a better vibration. You're already entering to a very good one, but it can always be better. You can always improve. And that room for improvement, it will continue to happen. We will continue to help you, but when you will stop, it's unlikely that's going to be in this incarnation, right? You probably will have some lingering effects of it throughout your life, but you can continue minimizing as you continue to work on it. It's a question of improving ourselves, and it's a continuous effort.
It's interesting because I do notice the more that is negativity that is outside of my home, outside in the world, to not be around that, not to be, because as mediums you can feel that sometimes when you go into places. And there's some places that I have to go, and most specifically recently has been, senior living facilities, nursing homes, funeral homes. These are not good places for mediums. But I don't have a choice. I have to go to these places, but I do realize if I'm not around those places, or I'm not around in, especially what's going around in a lot of the news today and a lot of the world today, and all this what this anger and frustration that's all bubbling up, that definitely affects the quality of the physical effects, and it's best for me to stay away from that. That's one thing I have noticed, but that's also really hard to do. Like, how do you not do life,
Yeah,
really have to
it
do
is
it.
hard. It is hard, and I'm not saying it's easy. And I think your you have achieved so much already that you have to. I think you have to when a difficult time comes, you have to reflect on how much you have progressed, how much you have achieved, and not allow to be frustrated, disheartened, because it's who you are. It's something that belongs to you, so you have to live with it. Now you are learning more and more how to live with it, and you are learning where to go, how to go, and how to defend yourself. So that's what really is making all the difference for you.
Well, if I can add here, I think that's one piece of, I mean, this is just not Laura, but a medium, right? We're affected by emotions, right? We all have them, and that can put you in a different mindset and vibrational level. And I think obviously that's probably what affects her in a sense of donating energy when she doesn't want to, because she's obviously we're humans and we feel things, we go through different emotions during the day. But I think for every medium that there's a need to sort of, everybody needs to do it, but like to really surveil your emotions on a sort of like hourly basis. I feel that because if I get out of control, I'll start hearing things. I'll start, like the vibration will change. And I've been there before on a much, acute state. But I think that's for a medium, that's part of like the burden, right? That it's you have that augmented sort of like mediumship ability that we all have, but there is a need to kind of to really watch on a daily basis and to not let emotions overtake, which is almost like contradictory, right? Emotions are just part of like our uptake and how we're made. But I think for a medium itself is I think that's part of like the challenge, right? Daily, when you feel like energies are coming your way, and even like the work before the mediumship meeting where then you feel emotions from other spirits, that cannot affect you because you take that to your life and then it becomes depression, whatever it is, right? So I think it's very much a daily exercise we're all doing to some extent. I think Laura has a direct effect in the sense that she have physical effect happening around her, but you affect every single one of us, in different at different degrees. It's just an exercise that we all need to do.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for that. Okay, let's continue, Soraya.
Okay. 105. By its very nature and its normal state, the perispirit is invisible. The same may be said of countless fluids that we know to exist, but which we have never seen. But like certain fluids, it can undergo modifications that render it visible, whether by a sort of condensation or by a change in its molecular arrangement. This is when it can appear to us in a vaporous form. Condensation, we must not take this word literally. We only use it due to the lack of another, and as a simple instrument of comparison, can be such that the perispirit acquires the properties of a solid and tangible body, but it
and instantaneously return to this ethereal and invisible state. We can understand
this process by comparing it to steam, which can go from invisibility to a mist, then to a liquid, and finally to a solid, and vice versa. These diverse states of the perispirit, however, are due to the will of the spirit itself, and not to the physical or outside causes, as is the case with our gases. A spirit can appear to us when it places its perispirit in the state necessary to become visible, but a simple desire is not enough to produce the effect, because the modification of the perispirit can only occur when it combines its own fluids with the specific fluid of a medium. This combining is not always possible, which explains why it is uncommon for spirits to make themselves visible. Consequently, it is not enough for the spirit to want to appear or for a person to want to see it. The combining of the fluids of both is required, which means that there must be a kind of affinity between them, and also that the emission of the medium's fluid must be quite abundant in order to bring about the perispirit's transformation. There are probably other conditions that we do not yet know about. Finally, the spirit must have received permission to appear to a person, which is not always granted, and if so, only in certain circumstances for the reasons that we are not yet able to ascertain.
Okay, so here we continue talking about materialization, okay? So the perispirit in its normal state is invisible to us here incarnates, okay? Talking about us incarnates. The perispirit is invisible to us incarnates, with the exception of mediums like Divaldo and other mediums that can that have the ability, the clairvoyance, the ability to see the spiritual world. And then Kardec talks about, you know, countless fluids that we know that exist but can never be seen. So the air is, we know the air is all around us. Can we see the air? Some modifications of air we can see sometimes, but mostly we cannot see the air. So the perispirit can undergo modifications that will make it visible to incarnates again. Kardec uses the word, it can appear to us in a vaporous form, and again, there are no words to define how they can materialize. So Kardec uses condensation and make it very clear, we must not take this word literally. So we can use condensation for lack of better word, but it's not exactly what happens. So this perispirit acquires the properties of a solid and tangible body, but it can return to the invisible state. And then he compares, very good comparison is to the water, right? In all the different forms of water, steam that can go to invisibility, to a mist, to liquid, to solid, and then the other way around. So the perispirit, it's a good comparison. It's not, again, it's a comparison, it's an analogy, it's not what happens to the perispirit, okay? And finally, he talks about the spirit can only appear to us, or materialization can only happen when there is a medium involved providing ectoplasm. So the spirit can only become visible to everyone there where there is an ectoplasm around for the spirit to use. In the case of Jesus, of course, as a perfect spirit, he knew everyone around and where to get the ectoplasm, because again, the fact that he appeared, let's say the first time he appeared to Mary Magdalene and I think there was another woman walking, he appeared to them. Were they mediumship of physical effects? Not necessarily. Jesus could get it from anywhere around the place, and the same thing with the apostles. I imagine probably one or more of the apostles was a medium of physical effects. Peter later would perform healings, so you have to be a medium of physical effects, so for him to appear. But again, he has to combine the spirit willingness to materialize itself and a medium of physical effects to produce, to provide the ectoplasm. The combination of the fluids of both is required. So there has to be some affinity between them. And the emission of the medium's fluid must be quite abundant in order to bring the perispirit transformation. That's what I said earlier. Most of us, well, all of us, we produce ectoplasm, but not in a quantity enough for anything significant, for nothing of physical effects can happen with our general person ectoplasm. Now, with the medium of physical effect that produces enough ectoplasm to produce the materialization. And finally, the spirit must receive permission to appear. What does it mean here, right? There is a hierarchy of spirits, and there is some control of the places and willingness of spirits to appear. So even if a spirit wants to appear to cause harm to individuals that do not deserve to be harmed, are not in a state of going through the experience, there can be the high order spirits preventing this from happening, because their hierarchy always prevails on this all those actions that happens in the spiritual world with spirits. Okay. All right. So here we talked about materialization. Okay. Questions here? Okay. Oh, yes, Anna.
Very quick, I hope, Joe. When you talk about affinity, this word appears a lot. We try to use it to really explain, and it can be a bit tricky to really get clarity of what this affinity means. And I think it could be important to understand, when do we see it, when we allow for this donation of ectoplasm, or when do we connect to certain spirits and not others? I please clarify it to me, but I have a feeling that when you talk about affinity, it could very well be about your vibration in that moment, at least in some moments, because I don't think it necessarily it's how it works in the mediumship meeting. I think in the mediumship meeting, it may not be that clear. It's not because you're a depressive person that you get all the depressed spirits. It's not because you're a very rebellious person that you get all the rebellious spirits through you to communicate. But I do feel that there are moments that when your vibration or your energy is in a particular state, you do open up. I'm not sure if attract is the right word, but you open up to a particular set of spirits appearing or approaching or even materializing, and I feel like that because the only time that I saw 3 spirits together in a very, very clear state and with a very strong and scary communication was because I was in a different country, different state. I was very scared of a particular illness that happens in my family, and I thought maybe I was going to be sick the same way that somebody in my family was, and that vibration, I think, may have opened up to a space for these 3 spirits coming with a very aligned communication to push me into that hole of really believing that, yes, I would have the same kind of cancer, and that was it. And then I just changed my life, changed my food, changed my behavior, changed my thing. Never saw them again, and never even thought of them very often. But is that what you mean about affinity? Is it a bit of, or is it something else? It's your makeup, and that's how you are, or how you've been, and you're going to attract them and allow them to materialize regardless of your vibration in that moment or not. It is just your nature of being that kind of medium with that particular capacity, I guess. Thank you.
Yeah, you describe it very well. So what you said is exactly what it is, right? So the affinity, again, two different things. The affinity here, it's not the affinity in the sense that positive spirit aligns with a positive medium. No, the affinity here is the sense of energies, right? So the energies need to connect, and it's independent of positive or negative. It's beyond our understanding of the of this, but we cannot think of it as in terms of positive attracts positive, negative attracts negative. No, it's really affinity in terms of energy that can allow this type of a process to happen in terms of materialization. So a medium that produces the ectoplasm has a sort of energy on this ectoplasm that combines with the energy of the spirit that wants to materialize, allows the spirit to materialize. If the energy does not combine, and again, it's not positive or negative, it's just energy. with a spirit that wants to materialize doesn't allow the spirit to materialize, which is not very different from what happens in a mediumship meeting. So you are a medium, you receive angry spirits, you receive suffering spirits, you receive happy spirits, independently on how you are feeling that day, if you are open yourself to do the work of mediumship. You came from a difficult day, you were, very difficult things happen during your day, but you arrive at the spirit center, you enter into prayer, you prepare yourself, you receive all sorts of spirits. It has nothing to do with how you're feeling during the day. It's just the connection through vibrations, energies, whatever you want to call. So you are going to receive different kinds of spirits. Maybe one spirit is going to connect with you and another one to Laura because of different levels of vibration, which again is not negative, positive, or anything like that. Good, bad, it's just different levels of energy. Okay. Yes, Fabio.
Thank you.
Also, João, isn't also everything that you said, of course, but also isn't also depending on the level of evolution of the medium, and also past lives experiences, the stuff that a medium is dealing in a medium's life right now. Isn't that also influences the kind of proximity of messages and proximity of experiences and all that? I think that's all very, very important as well, right?
Yes, everything is important. Our journey, everything that belongs to it's our needs in our journey, and the mediums is not exempt from that, will be part of the experiences. But again, if you are a medium and you are willing to do the work of a medium, and you open yourself, you are doing the right things, you open yourself to receive the communications of spirits in general. Ideally, if you are doing everything right, you receive all different sorts of spirits. When you start receiving a spirit only of one kind, just angry spirits all the time, you have to question yourself if you're not bringing your anger to the mediumship meeting, because you are attracting spirits that are angry like you, right? When you open yourself to the spirits in a broad sense, without bringing your own bias and prejudices and own emotions of the day or of the week, you can do a better work as a medium. Again, we cannot separate ourselves from who we are, and we are going to bring our experiences, and maybe what you mentioned, your past experiences, your past lives and other things are going to be relevant for some spirit, one or another, to communicate, because as a medium you also need to be part of that experience in order for you to grow. So yes, but again, the most important objective of the medium is to be open to all sorts of different spirits, and the more they can do that, the better will be the quality of the mediumship.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, 106.
Okay. Another property of the perispirit is a penetrability inherent to its ethereal nature. No type of matter obstruct it. It can pass through anything as easily as light passes through transparent objects. Hence, there are no means of preventing spirits from
entering a place. They can visit prisoners in the cells as easily as they can visit someone in the middle of an open field. Again, when we're talking about perispirits here, right? So it's a different dimension from the physical world. So there is nothing that can prevent the spirits from moving around. In theory. In practical terms, of course, there are defenses provided by the spiritual benefactors to places, to homes, to institutions. When we talk about doing the gospel at home weekly or daily or weekly in our homes to create a barrier to prevent spirits to enter our homes and to disturb our lives. So we are talking here about something. If nothing can prevent them from entering it, why are we doing it? Because the evolved spirits, our protecting spirits, they can prevent less evolved spirits to penetrate places. We talk about spiritist centers that are, there is the spiritual barriers that prevent spirits that want to disturb the meetings to enter. You take some spirits with you to the spiritist center. Some of them will be allowed to enter because they can receive the assistance. Some of them are in such a state that they cannot receive any benefit from the spiritist center at that moment. So they are kept outside. How they are kept outside if they can penetrate everything? Well, there is a spiritual barrier provided by the spirit protectors of the ambient that can prevent the spirits to move. We know that the spirits can only go from their level down in the spiritual world, right? So André Luiz, again, was in El Solar. He could visit his mother's colony with her. She took her there. He could not go by himself there. He didn't even know how to, because the level of his involvement wouldn't allow him. So I just want to make clear that, yes, spirits can penetrate everything in the physical world, but they won't do that because there are some defense mechanisms, some protection, and everything else. So here, what Kardec is trying to explain is that there is no obstruction in the physical world to spirits to pass through. But going a little further, we know that there are spiritual protection in wherever it needs to be. Okay. All right. Okay. 107.
Yes. Apparitions during the awakening state are not rare, nor do they comprise a novelty. They have occurred throughout history, which offers us a large number of such cases. However, without having to resort to the past, they have frequently been encountered in our own times. Many people have seen them and have at first taken them for what convention has called hallucinations. They're especially common in cases where persons have died somewhere far away and have come to visit relatives and friends. They often do not have a clear objective, but we can state that spirits who appear in this way are generally drawn to so out of sympathy. If we would examine our memories, we would find that there are few people who have not heard of incidents of this kind, and their authenticity can no longer be held in doubt.
So again, talking about apparitions here, both in materializations and apparitions of spirits to individuals that can see them and nobody else can. We heard, everybody heard about cases of people that are very close to discarnate. They are in a semi-conscious state, and they talk about seeing family members that have gone to the spiritual world. So people that are close to discarnate and they are in hospital beds or their home beds, and they say, "Oh, my mother is here, my father is here." This is not hallucination, right? Of course, our medical field that does not entertain spirituality talks about hallucination. Can we say 100% of the cases are not hallucinations? No, we cannot, because we cannot guarantee everything all the time. But in most of the cases, I will say in the majority of the cases, when people close to death see spirits of relatives that came to help them, to visit them, it's the reality. Sometimes it may be hallucinations, but mostly I'll say it's reality. So we see and hear people talking about seeing spirits, spirits presenting to them, and many people, even those that are not mediums or ostensive mediums, you hear cases of people talking about going to the room and have a quick glance of someone was there, and they cannot really describe, but they see someone there and then it disappears. I heard many cases of people describing these experiences. So again, we are in connection with the spiritual world 100% of our time. Most of the influence of the spirits are, like it says in the Spirits book, question 625, they influence your lives more than you imagine. So they are present in our lives much more than we acknowledge, but not through apparitions. When we see spirits in our dreams, we can call them apparitions, we can call just dreams. It's not what we're talking here. But when we're talking here at apparitions, both materializations where everybody sees, or apparitions to individuals where the spirit appears in front of them, either to talk, to give a message, to make themselves visible, they are much more frequent than people acknowledge it because of the biases, the fear of being called crazy, of being called, hallucinatory state. More and more medicine is studying this, and more, especially in the science connected to spiritism in Brazil, especially, they are doing more and more studies on this type of psychological interactions with the spiritual world, and they are finding more and more explanations for it. But we are still far from science being able to first accept and second understand all these experiences. But they are real. We as spiritists must take it seriously when someone talks about it. We have to listen, we have to entertain the idea, and try to explain in a way that it can be understandable and acceptable by the person who's having or had the experience, so not to scare them, and also not to bring too much to like when we talk about children, right? That when they talk about invisible friends, we need to acknowledge, we need to allow them to continue having these experiences without denying it, because it's going to create possible traumas, but also without overexciting, because children have vivid imaginations. If we start making too much noise about their experiences, they're going to start creating fantasies together with the reality of their experiences, and then it become a little bit out of control, let's say. So if someone talks to you about these apparitions, entertain, have a healthy discussion about it, try to clarify as much as you can, but without denying or giving too much importance. Fabio.
Yes, I mean, I think what you're describing, I can tell you 3 cases that happen very similar. I don't know if you fall into this category, but I've been awakened by someone at one time, a really good friend of mine who I hadn't seen for many, many years. And later in the day, I heard that she had died. And the same thing happened with her mother a couple or maybe 4 years later than that. I was in my late 20s. Is that something that is considered what you're describing?
I think so, yes.
And then when I was in my teenage years, I was also I was awoken by someone that I didn't recognize, but had a clear messages just saying, that don't worry, everything will be fine. And then at that moment I got up, I woke up and the phone rang, and it was a hospital telling that my brother had a car accident. And so this is also can be considered something like this, or this is just a
Yes.
different type then?
Yes, it's an apparition, right? When Kardec puts it very generally, puts it in dreams, in wake state, in a semi-sleep state. So everything is an apparition. Yes.
Okay.
Again,
Thank you.
everything that it's real. Again, can we fantasize? Yes. Our brain can, we can maybe see things that are not there, but that's on us, not on the spirits, right? Because
Sure.
again, sometimes we fantasize. So we cannot take 100% literally. Like I talk about dreams, we cannot interpret dreams literally because our brain connects the dots, and some things that are not there, didn't happen, our brain creates based on our own experiences. So I'm not going to say that 100% of spirits that we see are real. We cannot take it for sure, but we can take it seriously in a broad way, right?
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, any final comments, questions? We're not going to go into globular spirits, which is a subject that I actually read it, and I don't think is very relevant to us. Elmo was going to talk about it last month, but I think he's going to go quickly through it because it's just things that are not really apparitions. There's a little bit of what you asked, Fabio. Things, people get overexcited and start seeing spirits everywhere. And that's not reality. That's what Kardec is going to discuss in these globular spirits. But it's not really that relevant, I think. It's just important for us to deal with, with these ideas that not everything we've seen is real. Sometimes it's not. We have to have the understanding of that. Okay, but we'll do that with that next month. Okay, so for next Sunday we are going to have our Q&As, the fourth Sunday of the month. So please bring your questions, bring your comments, and we can continue the discussion. I thought today was a very good discussion. I got a very good study group that with a lot of participation, which I think is important for us. So thank you all for participating. Carol, can you do our final prayer?
Yes, thank you so much, John, for hosting us today. And thank you very much, Zoraida, for reading for us today as well, and everyone who is here participating. Infinite Creator and Supreme Intelligence, we give thanks to be together again as brothers and sisters for the studies of our Medium's book, which is Part 2, Chapter 6, Visible Manifestations, topic being apparitions. Spirits may appear to us, and especially to seeing mediums, as apparitions or as physical vaporous forms. These appearances may appear very real through the eyes or even the touch, which are tangible. This is a materialization. The profound materializations of Jesus had major effects on Mary and the apostles. This assisted them to understand the meaning of the continuity of life after death. This caused the spread of the gospel teachings and the unfolding of Christianity. The perispirit or spiritual body is luminous, malleable, and can appear in various forms. Ectoplasm is needed for the physical effects to appear, that is, with the agreement from higher spirits or hierarchy. There is always spiritual protection wherever it is needed. We give thanks to the spiritual benefactors and the good spirits for guiding and inspiring us today. May we receive the love, light, and peace of Christ within us and for our loved ones, our teachers, our directors, our counselors, our mediums, the workers, and all participants. We pray for inner peace, and especially now for world peace, and for those who are suffering in the physical and spiritual worlds. We pray for our center, SGNY, and all spiritist centers throughout the world, that they may grow, prosper, expand, and be protected throughout the day and throughout the night. As we close, we humbly ask for safety and protection as we return to family, friends, loved ones, and coworkers. May we go forth and remind ourselves now to be beacons of love, of light, of peace, of service, and charity, which is love in action. May peace and love prevail. So be it.